In the age of AI, relationships, humanity, authenticity matter more, not less. And they're going to stand out more because we have all experienced what's happened to platforms like LinkedIn with the AI slop, as it's called, coming across.
Welcome to Relationship Capitalists, where super connectors share how they build trust, create value, and thrive when AI changes everything. In a world where expertise is being commoditized, your ability to build and sustain high-value human connections is what sets you apart. I'm your host, Jason Masciarelli. Let's dive in. Welcome to Relationship Capitalists. I'm your host, Jason Masciarelli. Today, I'm joined by Sharon Gillenwater, founder and CEO of ExecutiveIQ and author of Scaling with Soul. Sharon spent more than 2 decades in executive engagement, built Boardroom Insiders from scratch, scaled it to the Inc. 5000, and sold it for $25 million. Now she's rebuilding the executive intelligence category with AI. Today, we'll explore why curiosity, creativity, thoughtfulness, and real human effort are becoming the new B2B sales advantage. Let's dive in. Welcome, Sharon. I'm so excited to have you on today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure. So let's start off with digging a little bit in terms of kind of where you focus. And I know you talk a lot about AI on your LinkedIn and online. And so, if AI can help every seller do their homework, what becomes a key differentiator when you're trying to build trust with senior executives?
Your humanity, and what I mean by that is, your curiosity to actually get to know these people as fellow human beings. Your earnest desire to solve their problems and not just get them to sign on the dotted line. And all of that has to come from your authenticity, because if you just act like you're interested, act like you're curious, these are really smart people. They're going to figure you out, right? So I think in the age of AI, relationships, humanity, authenticity matter more, not less. And they're going to stand out more because we have all experienced what's happened to platforms like LinkedIn with the AI slop, as it's called, coming across. Even in my own comments, right? Comments people make on my posts, I always go through and want to reply to comments and like them and engage with people. But I'm so repelled by these comments that are obviously AI that all they do is restate what you already said in a very awkward and unnatural way, right? So I have been surprised how quickly I have turned against AI usage in those situations and how repelled I am by it. So that's my prediction.
I love it. And I think people are trying to find the balance, right? And authenticity is hard for people to tap into because so often everybody's kind of going through the motions. But it's really hard to bring that up. And do you have any ways that you can advise people on kind of how to bring out their authenticity?
Just be truthful. I mean, we don't want to be accused of oversharing, but be truthful about your own experiences. And I think a big piece of that is storytelling. I love telling stories. I'm old enough where I've acquired a lot of stories, if I can remember them all. And I learn through hearing people's stories. I can take a class on, how private equity works. But what I remember is the story that a banker told me once about a business owner who sold 3 times to private equity because his kids didn't want to run his paving business. He had a road paving business. And so he just kept running it and he kept selling it, and then he would sell it again. And he ended up making hundreds of millions of dollars off of this paving business he had started. And it's called, the second bite of the apple, the third bite of the apple. I remember that story, but if you were to ask me, what do those deals look like and what is the trajectory of the business, I probably couldn't answer that question in an accurate way.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think disclosure is a great way of framing kind of like if people can tap into giving disclosure and transparency about something that's a story, that can build trust and brings out that authenticity. So I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So over, I guess, the last 20 years, you've been helping go-to-market teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is
That's right.
about helping to engage senior executives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what really first showed you kind of, I guess, in terms of how do people better tap into executive engagement and not just look at it as access and a way to move up, but how they actually can build a genuine relationship and build trust?
A lot of the things that I already talked about play into that. The authenticity, showing you really care about these folks, um, telling stories that are relevant to them, and you know that they're relevant to them because you've taken the time to learn about them. Anybody can tell a story about something, their own success, how they've helped this client succeed with their initiatives. But if you know that this particular executive um, built some kind of something on blockchain at their last company and were heralded as a huge success in that area, and now they've just moved to your customer company and you need to engage with them, you can ask them, were you hired to do the same thing you did at your last company? Because I saw how you were hugely successful. Is that what they've hired you to do? Because that's what we're helping one of your competitors to do right now. Would you like to learn more about that? Like, can we have a conversation? That's going to get somebody's attention versus even going to them with the same proposal, like, hey, we're helping your competitor do X, Y, and Z, but tying it back to something that you have learned about them and you're telling them, I know this about you, and I think it's really interesting. It just is, it really, in my experience, it's the difference between getting that email returned because that executive has gone to their chief of staff and said, set this up, set up a meeting with this person. I've seen it time and time again. Our customers will say, I used one hook from your insight, and I've been trying to get a meeting with this person for a year, and they got back to me in 5 minutes. It's because you've connected it right back to them. And it makes a big difference because people, that happens so rarely. Like, those of us who make buying decisions for our companies, whether it's a little company like mine versus a big Fortune 500, that's all we want. We want to be approached in a way that someone is showing you that you know something about them that is relevant to something you need to accomplish in your job to keep your job. And if they've seen that and they know that, you're almost obligated to talk to them. Same goes for, one of the critiques people would have of our company is like, well, you have a Fortune 500 CEO profile, but I don't sell into the CEO. I'm selling into like this business unit head. It's like, okay, well, we can get your profile of that one too. But if you go to that business unit head or even like a director of something or other and say, you know what, I saw that your CEO said this on their last earnings call and that they were going to allocate this much money to invest in something that you're working on, I presume. That person is obligated to talk to you. Because if that's their job is to make that initiative happen that the CEO is talking about on an earnings call and you go to them and say, I can help you do this, they're obligated to talk to you. It's part of their job. And so it makes a huge difference all the way down the chain, even to like a director level, someone in your buying group.
Yeah. Yeah. Did part of that insight come from when you're building boardroom insiders?
Yes. Well, it actually came on the front end of, I was doing a bunch of consulting for big tech companies that were selling into the Fortune 500. And this was a problem that kept coming up over and over again. The marketing side of the house, which was responsible for supporting the sales side of the house, would say, our salespeople don't know how to have conversations in the C-suite. They go in and they talk about product features and benefits, and that's not the kind of conversation that the C-suite responds to, or even like SVP, VP level, right? They're having to go higher and higher in these organizations because the deal sizes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the tech is starting to touch every part of the organization. So they feel like they need to approve these purchases. And it's a completely different conversation. And so I just started doing research into, okay, well, what do these folks respond to? What do these business decision makers respond to? And it's business conversations. It's hyper-targeted messaging and proposals and propositions, even to get that first meeting. And so it really takes a deeper level of insight and a level of business acumen to connect what you are selling to something that they are talking about, right? And so that's what we provided at Boardroom Insiders. And now with AI, with Executive IQ, which is my new company that I built to replace Boardroom Insiders, we're able to do that more effectively because of AI. Because what AI is really good at doing is looking at what a CEO says, and there's a lot of jargon that they use, or a CIO, a technical person, and translating that into actionable stuff for the seller, right? AI can look at an earnings call transcript that's very dense and say, these are the 5 things that they're going to be investing in next year. And here's how to get your foot in the door. Here's what to say. And so that's what we're building into our new product.
Awesome. Do you have any good stories in terms of where folks have used that technology and capability to use the hook, get the call, get the meeting, but then convert that very quickly into a relationship that they were able to actually build into something meaningful?
Yes, I have a lot of, the most common story I hear over and over again is that one that I just told you. I've been trying to get in this, to talk to this person for a year. I've emailed them, I've called them, I've tried to, run into them at events and nothing. And I read your profile of them. I took this one hook, I put it in an email, they got right back to me. So that's the most common story. And I've heard different varieties of this. There was one customer, a very large tech company, who was trying to access a CIO at one of their customers. And this person just wouldn't give them the time of day for a very long time. And so what they did is this person was from India, the CIO is from India. They looked at their executive team, who's from India, and they were actually able to pinpoint that one of their executives went to the same middle school as this person. And it just got unlocked just like that through that connection. And so still, despite the fact of, decades and decades of, the 3 martini lunch and people doing business on the golf course, a lot of people question, well, will a connection like that really make a difference? Well, it may not get you the deal, but it will open the door. And sometimes getting the door open is just the hardest part, because these people are inundated with pitches, and AI is making that worse and more irritating. So one trend that we've seen, particularly with senior tech executives who are purchasing a lot of tech, is they don't want to be found. There's been a trend of, chief information security officers, CTOs, CIOs, to not even update their LinkedIn profiles because they don't want to be found, because they know it's not going to hurt them. Because if they need to buy something, if they need a solution for their company, they just talk to their peers and figure out who the best vendors are. But they can't stand being inundated constantly. So if you can break through that noise with a connection, with a very well-crafted pitch that's so relevant to what they're dealing with in their job, they will pay attention.
Yeah. And when you talk about relevant to their job, is it tapping into empathy as well and trying to connect to them on a human level in terms of like what they must be going through? Like if there's a lawsuit going on, or if there's, some other, things that are happening, because we're all human at the end of the day. And I think sellers forget that the executive on the other side is just another person that has emotions and has feelings. And so does your system help them tap into that as well a little bit?
Yes, it does. We include personal interests if we can find them. Sometimes that can't be found. We don't make up information we can't find, but we'll find what their favorite sports teams are, or their favorite sports, or their favorite activities. We all have things happen in our lives where, we've had some pretty serious health challenges, or someone in our family has. And so they get involved in charities that deal with that particular issue. And all of that is relevant, because you could, if you're trying to get someone to an event, for example, You could have a charity tie-in. If you want a golf tournament that's going to benefit a charity, if this is something that's really important to this person, they're on the board, you could talk to them about, teaming up that way, not in a cheesy, opportunistic way, but in a genuine way. Especially if they themselves have put it out there. You don't want to be creepy, but if they themselves have put it out there, like, I'm involved in this organization because this is important to me, because there's an executive I was just reviewing recently who started an organization to help support mental health of teenagers because he lost a niece to suicide. This is nothing we dug up that they haven't talked about publicly. You have to be respectful also of privacy. So it's kind of funny because one of our customers a long time ago looked deeply at what we provide, and they said, I don't think we want to provide all this stuff to all of our sales force, only the elite, the ones who know how to use it, because it could come off as kind of creepy, because some of these profiles you read, it's like the person. You really get a feel for that person, and you don't want to be like a fire hose and say, well, I know you like yoga and you like this and you're on the blah, blah, blah. It would be really weird and creepy. Yes.
So do you find people have to do training, or do they just really start out with kind of people that they think are a good fit for that? How do people handle that issue?
Yeah, well, it's not entirely scalable as well as you could imagine. So because of that reason, it's usually reserved for these smaller teams within a big enterprise that are like key accounts or strategic accounts, or top 200 accounts or top 50 must-win accounts. Every organization has these various lists where they're hyper-focused and they're willing to put more effort and resources behind winning those accounts, keeping those accounts happy, growing those accounts. And so those are typically the best entry points for us as sellers to sell into an organization. And those do tend to be where you find the elite salespeople and account managers who really know how to use this information. And they do tend to be incredibly smart, curious, and caring people. Of course, they want the deal. And of course, they're under pressure for those deals, but those deals come easier when you lead with your humanity.
Yeah. So I know the Boardroom Insiders was shut down by a PE firm, right? Which is a tough thing to go through as a founder. I've been there, and I think you said that customers had asked you to build something like it new. And so what did that kind of tell you about kind of trust and the relationship capital that you had built in the marketplace? Share a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I knew we had done that, and most of that credit goes to my previous co-founder, who was kind of the customer-facing kind of deal guy and managed our sales team. And we had some phenomenal sellers who really didn't have a ton of experience doing this when they came in, but my co-founder kind of just took them under his wing, and they figured it out together. And so it showed me that we really had not only what I thought we had, but it was even better than I thought. It was so heartwarming. It was so motivating to restart, because I made a TikTok about this last August when I was thinking of restarting. And I said, I know we can do this. We can build the product, but can we get those enterprise deals in the door fast enough that we don't run out of money? Because enterprise deals take forever to close. You have to go, even if your economic buyer is ready to go and they're like, we need this, we want this, we've got the budget allocated, it has to go through procurement. And that could take forever. Or they might send it back to somebody else for a higher level of approval, or a mandate comes down, which has actually happened to us. Well, we're putting a hold on all new tools for 6 months because of AI. Like, we're trying to get our heads around it. So those deals get pushed routinely. And so having that customer support, and as I would describe it, having someone who will fight procurement for you is critical. And so the more I talked about this on TikTok and I started hearing from customers, and I started hearing from, my current co-founders who actually were continuously running the business while I was out of it for 4 years, I thought, I think we've got even a better position than I would have ever dreamed. And then the day we launched in February, I went to a small gathering of people who focus on executive engagement. That's really the core use case of what we do. And these people had been working in executive engagement for a very long time and kind of seasoned veterans of the space. And they were coming up to me like, we loved Boardroom Insiders. One of them said, I am fangirling so hard right now because I can't believe that you're here. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know the extent of our reputation in the market. I mean, I knew that our renewals were good and people liked us and we maintained good customer relationships, but people loved the product. And they had a lot of success stories in using the product. So that really contributed to my ability and my determination to restart the company, because I tried to buy the company back from the private equity firm and they wouldn't sell it to me. And I had a financial partner who backed me the first time in Boardroom. And he said, listen, if you get this company back, I'll bankroll the whole thing. Like, I just get it back. But they wouldn't sell it to me. They wouldn't sell it. So that made it a lot harder. And it made it harder because my financial backer was like, I'm not going to give you as much money because it's not going to be as easy to do it over. You have to start a whole new brand, a whole new name, build a product. And so in the very beginning, I said, if I can't get this company back, I'm not doing it. But I changed my mind. And it was because of the customers and because of the team and also because of what I was seeing and intuiting about AI, because I mean, AI is just another technology. Now, it's huge. I'm not minimizing how massive it is, a change for all of us, but I've been through versions of this before. I've been through it with marketing automation. When all the marketing automation tools came about, and it was like, oh, this changes everything. It's going to be so easy to send personalized messages that are more relevant. It's just like AI. You got garbage in your inbox, and we continue to. And so what became more important, and this was when I created the first version of the product with Boardroom Insiders, what became more important was that genuine personalized outreach, not just like filling in your name, genuine personalized outreach with, hey, I read your CEO's earnings call transcript. I saw he said this. This has got to trickle down to what you're working on. And we have had experience doing this. Do you want to have a conversation? You're in, right? So it's very counter to what marketing automation was about, which is about being able to contact more people with a quasi-personalized message faster at huge volume. It's the complete opposite of that, but it's more effective. And so nothing has really changed. And that's what my new co-founder, who worked in the business for the 4 years when I was gone from Boardroom, he pulled me early on because I was like, well, what are the new tools out there? And I have two current co-founders who both were working for the company. And so he told me, he's like, Sharon, not a lot has changed. So everything has changed. But when it comes to what we do, not a lot has changed. We can use AI to accelerate the growth of our business and the growth of our data set. And we've accomplished in about 7 months what it took me about 5 years to accomplish last time. But when it comes to the use cases and the need for what we do, not a lot has changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like the power of your relationships with your co-founders, it was essential for you basically restarting and
Yes.
getting off the ground quickly and doing it not in 5 years, but now in a fraction of that, right?
Yes, I would not have done it without these people because I had been out of the whole thing for 4 years. I had some relationships, but I didn't have all the relationships. I didn't know what customers were talking about in terms of what they wanted, what product enhancements they were looking for. If I go and look at my LinkedIn at some of the folks that I used to work with back in the earlier days of Boardroom Insiders, a lot of those people are retired and moved on. There's a whole new crop of people, and the executive engagement role has become a dedicated role in a lot of cases. That was not the case when I was in the business. We would have to go to field marketing or event marketing. And so we were kind of selling all over. So that has changed a bit, but it's important, if you're creating a whole new group of customers, that you have insight into who those customers are and who's been buying this stuff recently.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's tough to find good co-founders, and they must have had a lot of trust and confidence in you to team back up and do it again, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it was just like riding a bike. You worked with these people for a very long time. You have a shorthand. It's you have a shared experience that you draw upon to create the next version. I can't imagine just creating a whole brand new product from scratch that I have no experience with before. I mean, I did it from 2008 to 2021. I did that, right? But I don't think I'd want to do that again. In fact, I tinkered around with different types of products while I was retired, and my heart wasn't in it, because it wasn't what I built my career on. This whole idea of, building relationships with people, in a commercial context, but doing it as you would in like a personal relationship, right? Kind of taking it slow, getting to know them, being authentic, not being weird or pushy. So when I jumped back into this, it's like, oh, this is what I've been missing. This is what I really like to do, and this is what I'm good at. It felt very different from when I was experimenting with other types of projects. Yes, I did write a book, and sometimes I forget that I have that book. So thank you for bringing it up. It's funny when you're used to these, projects and running a startup, and you complete something and then you move on and you move on, having a fixed thing that you promote for the rest of your life is very odd. And so I do forget about the book, but yeah, the book, I'd been doing this for so long that I didn't know it was like a big deal, or that it was rare to basically seed strap a company from 200,000 in seed capital to 5 million in ARR, which sounds small to a lot of people, but and then sell it for 25 million at 5 times revenue. I thought, well, we did well. I'm happy, right? But what happened was people started finding me because I share a lot of information on TikTok, and they'd say, can you talk to me about this or that? And I just thought everybody knew what I knew. I don't know why, but I always think everybody knows what I know. And not in a way like, well, everybody should know that. It's just like, I don't know why, So when you talk to someone and they're like writing down notes, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so helpful. This is so helpful. That's when I started thinking, maybe I should share more of this information. And I also had a friend who was a writer, and he's a personal friend who's like a childhood friend of my husband, and he came to visit the summer after I sold the company, and we would stay up until 2 a.m. drinking bourbon and telling stories. And he was fascinated with my whole journey with this company. And so I would just tell him all these stories, and he's like, you have got to write a book. And I'm like, nobody wants to hear this. And he said, yes, you've got to write a book. So I really resisted to the point where he said, I'm just going to interview you for like 20 hours, and I'm going to use an AI transcription thing. And all I'm going to do is put it in an order that a book should be in. And then you can do with it what you want. So we had a lot of fun doing that. And then when I read it, I'm like, wow, this is pretty good, And so it was a lot of work, and I needed a lot of help to get it into shape to be a book and get it published. But I did that, and I always say it's a beach read. It's not a business guide, because I don't learn from business guides. Like I said, I need stories, because those stories just lock into my brain. And then I know, oh, I know what to do in this situation, right? So it's just full of stories, and it's full of obstacles and how we overcame that or not. Like it's full of failures. And I met with this woman in Hungary who's an entrepreneur, and she held up my book, and I was so surprised because she had Post-it notes all through it. And she said, these are things that, I want to remember to do, or are very instructive to what I'm building. I'm like, wow, because I didn't think of it as being so instructive, but apparently it is. And that makes me very happy. But I always forget to tell people about the book. And when I do speaking engagements, I completely forget about it. And my husband is standing in the back of the room going, don't forget to tell them about the book.
That's great. That's great. So one of the things you talk about is like high performing teams and sustainable culture, making entrepreneurship accessible. So how can founders scale without losing trust at a human level?
Yeah, it's a tough balance. Well, first, I mean, this is assuming that as a founder, you are a good, ethical, reasonably ethical person who cares about people and has empathy, right? There are plenty of people who don't, so I don't know what to tell those people. But well, here's the answer. Even inclusive of those people who don't have that, or it doesn't come naturally, will find it because it will serve you well. If you don't have to be a taskmaster, a hard ass, a nightmare for your team. You can treat people with respect. You can let people go home at 5 o'clock. You can, or stop work at 5 o'clock, or not ask them to work at all hours. And you can hear what their goals are, and you can be opportunistic and say, well, where do our goals intersect? A good example is, and I've talked about this in my book several times, as a business owner and someone our business was starting to scale, and I needed to hire all these people. And you don't want to just hire anybody, because then you don't want to have to fire and rehire. I was adding new functions to the company. At one point, I was adding a recruiter role. We had never had a recruiter before, because I was the recruiter and my partner. We had to add a product manager. We had never had a product manager before. And so, because I had gotten to know a lot of our people that worked for us, I knew that this person over here, he was a phenomenal employee, and he just seemed to be so into like all the little bells and whistles on our product, and he kept finding bugs, and he would ask about, well, why don't you do this with it? And what about this technology? And he was more technical than anyone on our team. So I went to him and I said, and I almost didn't hire him because he was overqualified for the role he was in. And I said, you're going to get bored and you're going to leave. And he's like, I just want to get in at this company. So he worked in that role for like 9 months, did really well. And I said, how would you like to move into a part-time product management role? You'll do your current role half-time. You'll do product management half-time. It could be hard. I'm not sure. I've never done this before, but let's try it. You'll get an immediate bump in pay, and you have to work it out with your manager right now, because she's only going to get you half time. But I had checked with her first before I asked him. And I said, if it works out, you can go into a full-time product management role after 6 months. And I said, and if you need any training, anything, I'll pay for that. And so we did it, and he did phenomenally well. And it was all because I kind of knew stuff about him, and I was watching him, right? And so you look for the intersection of probably what they're looking for, or you're going to lose them, and then what you need. And I did the same with the recruiter. There was a woman on the same team, this poor manager, I kept taking her people. She was on the same team, and I said, how would you like to move into kind of a part-time recruiter HR type of role? Because we needed policies, we needed onboarding, we needed someone to recruit, and we needed someone to kind of standardize all of our handbook and all that stuff. I didn't have time to do it. And so she took that role on, and I'm very proud to say that both of them now work for huge companies in dedicated HR and product management roles. So it not only served our needs, but it launched them into the space where they really wanted to go. And I don't know, hopefully maybe I can recruit them back after we grow.
Yeah. You didn't take a one size fits all approach to management. You tapped into what their objectives were and what their goals were at a personal level. and you helped them get there. So you probably brought the best out of them.
And we had a lot of the people who worked for us were in their first job or second job out of college. They were kind of not really knowing exactly what they wanted to do. And if you really like them and you want to keep them, you have to look for places for them to go. Otherwise, they're going to leave. And I was planning, before we sold the company, I was planning to move some of our researchers into more of a customer-facing consultant type of role, because their business acumen was incredible. Their knowledge was incredible. And I'm like, they're not going to be able to do this for much longer than 2 years, because the job was literally like just heads down, researching, putting it in a database, editing it, and just doing that every single day without talking to anybody. So that it also helps build a nice culture where, a lot of places, they just want to keep you where you are. If you're good at your role, they just want you to stay right there and don't move. So them seeing other people who we created new roles for, that creates for a hopeful culture where people know you're kind of looking out for them and looking to help them grow in their career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's powerful. It's powerful. So if a seller, founder, or go-to-market leader is listening on a Monday morning, wants to figure out a daily habit that they could do that is going to help them in their relationships and in business, what's something you would recommend?
Well, the first thing I'd recommend is they talk to us, but because it's hard to scale what we recommend, and that's why we build a tool so you have it at your fingertips. But if I would say, look at your top prospects, your must-win deals, and really just get incredibly curious and use AI to help you do it. You could use AI to say, go get this company's last earnings call and tell me, what are the top 5 things this company is spending money on over the next year? And what are the biggest problems they need to solve? And then see where you intersect with that. Hopefully there's some intersection there. And don't, shoot for the stars. Don't assume you're not going to be able to get that meeting, because with that information and a thoughtful communication, which AI can also help you create with some guardrails, you might be able to get your foot in the door there, and be curious about that person. You just have to be very careful. Researching companies using AI is really easy, but researching people using AI can be a train wreck, because lots of people have the same names. Even in the same industry, lots of people have the same names. And if AI gets confused, it will hallucinate, and it will create a Frankenstein profile by putting multiple people together and make you think that's one person. So there's a lot of fact checking and due diligence that needs to go into that kind of research. But the company level research is quite easy. And I just love how AI cuts through the jargon and says, these are what these companies are spending money on this year. And you can even put what your company sells into AI. I mean, Claude Projects is where I do a lot of that stuff. And it just does a fantastic job.
Yeah. So what's something that sellers should stop doing because it makes executives feel that the outreach is lazy or generic?
Sending generic messages. The number one thing I think is just the worst are these what do you call them? Sequences that people do on LinkedIn. Whether it uses AI or not, I don't know, but connecting with a specific reason that sounds legitimate. Like, I accepted your connection request because you said, I'm doing this podcast about relationships, and I see that you built your career helping people build relationships. Very relevant. And I accepted. Had I gotten like an automated, and maybe it was automated, but it didn't look like it. If I'd gotten something that was like, oh, and you're trying to sell me something over here, that would have been really irritating. And that is happening at scale on LinkedIn right now. So don't go there. Like, I actually had incredible success recently on LinkedIn, just really deeply diving into people's profiles I was doing an event in New York City and I wanted to get people to this event. And a lot of these people I didn't know, but I looked at their title and then I looked at their background. I looked at who else I was connected to. And I just wrote a very brief personalized message. I said, I think you would enjoy this event. I'm going to be there. Let me know what you think. And I thought no one's going to respond to this because everyone's so fed up with LinkedIn messages. People responded and connected with me. A lot of people in very senior roles within companies like AWS and Salesforce, responsible for executive engagement, they would respond with, oh, this looks fantastic. I can't make this one, but please invite me to the next one because it was relevant.
I find relevant events right now is a really good conversion rate.
Absolutely. But how many do you get invited to events over LinkedIn that have absolutely nothing with anything that you've ever done?
Yes.
Right. Like I'm out there talking about how I can't stand the idea of raising venture capital. I get invited to so many things having to do with venture capital. I'm like, why would you invite me to this? If or I get people, this is the best one I get. Sharon, have you ever thought of writing a book? We could help. Like, I wrote a book already and it's right on my LinkedIn. Like, what is happening right now? What are you doing? So, I think people are so fed up with that you don't need executive IQ and then deep, deep, deep dive to just make that first step. You can just look at their LinkedIn profile and who they're connected to and say, given your role in executive engagement, we're having a whole event just about executive engagement. I think you might, and if you can't come, you can send someone on your team. Let me know what you think, right? And so that's what I did. And I was just astonished at how responsive people were, people at very high levels within huge companies. And I was like, this is what people should be doing. Nothing has changed. Everything's changed and nothing has changed, right? We have access to more information, but somebody asked me, where should I use AI in my business? I said, use it in anything that's not touching people, your customers or your team. When it comes to managing your team and managing your customers, lead with people, because that's where it has the most impact and it really matters. And that's where people really get irritated with poorly executed AI outreach.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah. So my last question is around your relationships and if there was one that was most impactful throughout your career that turned into a strategic advantage.
So many. So many, from my original angel investor, who was a friend of my husband's when we first moved to San Francisco over 30 years ago. He was just another dude starting companies in a garage. And my husband worked for him at several failed companies. And then he hit it big. He sold a company and he was talking to me about what I was doing. And I said, I just don't have the money to build a full database. He's like, oh, I'll write your check tomorrow. He's like, how much do you want? And so that's how it started. And now he's my backer again. And he is an incredible mentor. He's a public company CEO. For years, I was so intimidated and afraid of him, but he helped me through that deal that we did in 2022. He talked me through the deal from the price, and he's like my hype man. And so through that, I'm no longer intimidated. It's like, he's my hype man and I can tell him anything. And who would have thought, this goofy guy from the 90s, when we moved to San Francisco, would become such a mentor, to my business partner, lives in South Carolina. I met him through somebody else, and we are as different as could be in so many ways. And then we have a lot in common. What we have in common are our values. And, someone in the South versus a San Francisco tech founder, we come together and it was fantastic. And now he's my advisor. He couldn't join me in this venture because he was doing something else. But I said, would you consider coming on board as an advisor? Because we are going to need your wisdom. And he's like, I'm in. And so I get to talk to him more than I have in the past 4 years since we sold the company. and just very unlikely relationships, friendships that had just, I couldn't have done what I did without either of those two.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it sounds like both of them were through serendipity, but then because of your values and shared goals and, your skills, you were able to build those into long-term sustaining relationships that made a big difference in your career.
Yeah, it's true. And I have vendors who I brought back this time, who we worked with before. So they're just too many to name, really. My co-founders who were with us before, everyone who works for the company now has worked for the company, the previous company. And what's nice about these relationships is because they're also friendly. And you can not talk for a couple of years and then you're brought back together and it's like no time has passed. I think we all delight in those types of relationships. It's not awkward. It's like we have our shorthand. Oh, do you remember when this happened? Oh, we should make sure that doesn't happen again this time, right? Or there's something in our product and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. How hard that was to figure out. Now we have to figure it out again, right? So it's just a delight.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sharon. This has been great. Thanks for taking the time and good to get to know you better.
It's great to get to know you and good luck with everything. Congratulations and let me know how I can help.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you.
All
Have
right.
a good night.
Thanks,
Take care.
Jason. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was Sharon Gillenwater. Today's episode reminded us that AI may make research faster, but it does not automatically create trust. Sharon's work shows that the real edge in B2B sales is moving from information access to human judgment, curiosity, creativity, thoughtfulness, and the courage to show up differently. To help us grow this community, please take 30 seconds to follow, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to support the show and help us grow. You can also listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Relationship Capitalists. If today's conversation sparks something for you, the best way to invest in your own relationship capital is simple. Share this episode with one person in your network who needs to hear it. To learn more about how to build and scale your relationship capital through proven frameworks and simple daily actions, visit relationshipcapital.com. And if you haven't already, search for Relationship Capitalists on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Relationship Capitalists is produced by Fame, the B2B podcast agency that grows your business. I'm Jason Masciarelli. Thanks for being here.